We can take.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the City Council Workshop, November 18th, 2025 at 6, or actually it's gonna be, oh, I read the wrong one. Yes, City Council special meeting with the public hearing and executive session, November 18th, 2025 at 7 p.m. We went a little longer on our first meeting, and this meeting is now called to order. If you wish to speak during the public comment portion of this meeting, please complete a request card and turn it in to our city clerk when you get a chance. It is recommended that you seek resolution of a complaint through the appropriate city department by scheduling a meeting with a council member or city staff before bringing the matter to the city council. At this time, we'll take a roll call. We have everyone present. And I forgot the flag salute because I was looking at the wrong one. So let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we will go right into our formal proceeding, which is going to be our public hearing. So the public hearing of the adoption of the Transportation System Plan is called to order. The request is to update the City of Boardman TSP adopted in 2001, which functioned as the Goal 12 transportation element of the comprehensive plan. The hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. First, the staff report, followed by an additional correspondence that has been received. 2, questions of staff from the City Council. 3, public testimony in the following order. Testimony in favor of the proposed adoption. Testimony opposed to the proposed adoption. Neutral testimony. Rebuttal testimony by staff. Number 4 will be questions of staff, if any, by the City Council, and then a discussion by the City Council. A decision may be made by the City Council at the close of the hearing, or the matter may be continued to a time, date, and place certain in the future. If the matter is reset to a time, date, and place certain in the future, this will be the only notice of that date you will receive. If you wish to speak, please fill out a testimony card and submit it to the city clerk. I will then call on people who want to speak. Any questions should be addressed through me. Because the hearing is being recorded, please state both your name and address for the record when you come to the podium. These are for the public comment later in the agenda. Is that correct?
No, my mom.
They're both in the public hearing?
Mom's in the public comment, mine is the land.
Okay, thank you. I was just gonna verify that.
I reserve the right.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, but I'm just telling you, I reserve the right for the public comment depending on how the land.
That's how you would like to.
Well, I don't know yet until things play out.
Okay.
Is that fair, Mr. Mayor Kiefer?
No, it's understandable.
Okay, thank you.
Please keep your testimony concise and to the point. The time limit for the public hearing is 3 minutes per person. Please note failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the City Council and the other parties an opportunity to respond to the issue prohibits an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. At this time, I ask the members of the City Council to disclose any conflict of interest. Please indicate the nature of the conflict and whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. Do I have any individuals who are abstaining? Okay. After hearing none, we have 0. Planning official Carla McLean will now present the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Kiefer. Good evening, members of the City Council. So I'm going to draw a little bit from the memorandum that's in your packet as well as the staff report. and share some general information about why the city initiated the development of a new transportation system plan, or what we often refer to as a TSP. Once that is concluded, I will ask, as we did last meeting, for the consultant team, particularly Matt Hugard of Kittleson and Associates, to address the particulars of the draft TSP. From the written staff report, I want to share that the current TSP was adopted in 1998, had an update in 2001. So it's quite old, almost 25 years old. It lacks consistency with the current transportation planning rule and other guidance and regulatory requirements. We did apply for and were successful in receiving a transportation growth management grant. That's a joint program of the Department of Land Conservation Development and the Oregon Department of Transportation. They are funding this project, with the city providing match in both cash and in-kind participation. To kick this off, the City Council did appoint a Public Advisory Committee, or PAC, in September of 2024. And that PAC consisted of transportation experts and local citizens to provide input and guidance to the development of the draft TSP that is before you tonight. Over the course of the past year, 3 PAC meetings have been held. An open house was held in January of 2025. There were 2 joint workshops that were held with the City Council and Planning Commission. And then formal outreach concluded in August with a joint City of Boardman and Morrow County workshop that included both jurisdictions' elected officials as well as their planning commissions. Formal notice to the Department of Land Conservation and Development occurred on September 10th. The city is, as you are well aware, is working on a larger strategic planning project that started with the development and adoption of 5 strategic goals. That planning process acknowledged that several planning documents were identified for update or development, including this TSP, a Parks Master Plan, an economic opportunities analysis, which we just heard about, an upcoming housing capacity analysis, and an update to both our comprehensive plan and development code. We've also determined, based on the TSP work, that we will be kicking off a refinement to the Main Street IAMP in the not too distant future. We're also aware that some residents may not fully understand the variety of projects that are underway and how they may, or more importantly, may not interact with each other. Both the TSP and the Park Master Plan discuss pedestrian and bicyclist needs, suggesting projects over their respective planning horizons, which are different. While coordination was accomplished, the intent of the planning projects are different, and not all projects are identified in both plans. To further explain, a TSP does not have a role in a potential urban growth boundary expansion. However, a UGB expansion would likely require a traffic impact analysis. Likewise, the adoption of the Parks Master Plan, except for the intersection of pedestrian and bicyclist projects, has little to do with the adoption of a TSP. It should also be noted that there is no prescribed sequence of adoption for projects like this, and that most communities do not take on all of this work at once, but adopt various plans in some order, limiting the overlap of work and the costs that this type of planning can have. The adoption process for the TSP is legislative in nature, with the public hearing this evening being the second of at least 2 for the City of Boardman, with this potentially being the final public hearing. Because the TSP is applicable within the urban growth boundary, it will be co-adopted by Morrow County, with their public hearings currently scheduled for early 2026. They will also have 2 public hearings, one before their Planning Commission and the second before the Board of Commissioners. The approval criteria in the Boardman Development Code applicable to this adoption are found in Chapter 4.1, types of applications and review procedures, and then more specifically 4.1.600, which is the type 4 or legislative procedure. Both the Planning Commission and City Council need to determine if the TSP is consistent with the statewide planning goals, the City of Boardman Comprehensive Plan, and whether adequate public facilities, services, and transportation networks can support proposed uses. That final criterion is more appropriate to a development request, but staff have proposed analysis and findings focused on the transportation facility component as it would relate to the draft TSP. As far as correspondence goes, the city has received several emails, 19 to be exact, from Jonathan and Cheryl Tallman, and a letter and follow-up from an attorney representing Alex Hattenhauer. Those are all available for review on the city's website as part of the City Council packet. And just so you know, we did update that again today at 2:30 this afternoon, adding version 2s of both the email packet as well as the staff response to those emails. Based on the review of the submittals from Jonathan Tallman, the city would state the following. We do not find them responsive to the substantive criteria. We are suggesting that the city council not continue the public hearing as the record has been open since prior to the planning commission public hearing. And we have provided a response to his assertions as a response to public comment that is available as part of the city council packet. Referring to the other letters received, there was an initial letter submitted by Jennifer Breger, who represents Alex Hattenhauer, that was reviewed by the consultant team, and based on their review, the Planning Commission did agree to the changes as requested in tables 5.1 and 5.2 of the a draft TSP. They did supply a follow-up letter after the Planning Commission hearing concluded, and that would be a letter to the council supplied by Ms. Breger from their traffic engineer, and it restated the request. And so staff made the decision to go ahead and further implement the requests they were asking. We did not feel they were out of line. And so the draft TSP in front of you includes all of the requests that they have made, and they're all included in tables 5.1 and 5.2. That concludes my portion of the staff report. I'm happy to take questions if you would like to at this point in time, or maybe more time conserving, we could just move straight directly to the presentation by Matt Hugart. Okay.
Does anyone have any questions from the council?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Matt, I'll let you take it away, and you should be able to share your screen.
Yes, I see that. And you can hear me correctly?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
For all of you on Zoom tonight, because many of you were here for the Planning Commission meeting, we have done improvements. We should be able to hear you, and hopefully you can hear us.
Yep, great. Well, thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Hugarts, and I'm with Kittleson and Associates. I'm sharing my screen here because this will be the presentation I'll give tonight. I represent a larger consultant team that consisted of my colleague, Isa Gagalis, not here this evening, but a critical part of the product before you this evening is Shayna Rayberg from MIG. She was responsible for assisting us with development code and implementing ordinances that help to bring the TSP into alignment with the comprehensive plan and the various other planning documents that help city staff make decisions. And then lastly, the third team member, Zan Associates, and they were responsible for the majority of the public engagement and outreach that we developed for getting feedback and getting input out to the larger public. So I appreciate their efforts. I'm just going to go into the presentation. I know some of you have seen this before, but for the sake of those in the audience who haven't, I'll walk through the high points of the TSP that's before you this evening, and we'll talk about some of the specifics, and I'll answer questions as needed. I guess Carla kind of pointed to this already, but why are we updating this TSP? And I think the key here is, the city's current TSP is quite old. It is out of compliance with a lot of updated planning standards. It was last updated substantively in 2001, and it's had a number of minor updates since, but generally speaking, TSPs need to be updated a lot more frequently than every 10 to 20 years. So the city applied for a grant, was awarded that grant, and that grant has been the funding source for the majority of the effort that went into this update. I think, at least as far as the draft of the TSP, I think I'll start with just kind of the foundational pieces. So there was about 6 goals and objectives that we had developed through at the very onset of the planning process. Those goals were identified based on input from the project team, city staff, and our public advisory committee. Those goals helped to guide a lot of the decisions that went into this TSP update, and they're kind of rooted in 6 fundamental goals, safety being one of them, mobility being the other, improving people's ability to get to and from different places in the city. Accessibility and connectivity is expanding routes and modal choices for people traveling to and from. making sure that whatever we do from a planning standpoint is rooted in the specific needs and interests of the community members themselves. Sustainability was an important factor in making sure that a lot of the projects are not going to be impactful to the natural environment. So being smart with some of the planning and the alignments of various roadways and sidewalks and bicycle facilities. And then lastly, the strategic investment goal was an important one to make sure that whatever we come up with in this planning process, that the city can pay for. Maybe they're not be able to pay for it in the first 5 years, but we can at least identify projects that can be paid for over the long run through outside funding sources such as other grants and funding sources that are unknown. So those were the key goals and objectives. The result of that, the foundation is what will be what I'll be pointing out here in the next few slides. I do want to pause here and talk a little bit about how we came up with some of the projects. So this map here represents kind of a high-level planning effort by the project team and city staff to identify parcels within the city that we can reasonably expect to develop over a 20-year period. It doesn't mean that every one of these parcels is going to develop, but just kind of looking at the land use and the zoning and the current development patterns, these were the parcels that we felt had the most potential to develop and expand over time. So we projected uses on these parcels based on the zoning and came up with traffic projections, multimodal traffic projections. And that was kind of the heart and the root of a lot of the analysis and the capacity analysis that went into the project development and decision-making process. So from that, I think what I'm going to show here is over these next several slides is kind of the fundamental mapping components that went into the TSP. So this is a map, figure 4-1, that's in the draft of the TSP, and it just shows the roadway jurisdiction map. It's a nice handy map that we created to help identify which roads are the responsibility of city, ODOT, county, and the Port of Morro. It wasn't easy to get to this point. There were a lot of disagreements or unknown ownership of certain roads, but I think we've got it all figured out. So this jurisdictional map is now included in the TSP for future reference and use. The next map here on the screen is what we call the roadway functional classification. And it's a new map updated for this TSP update that shows the different striations of roadway classifications, ranging from I-84 and the freeway designation to arterials, collectors, neighborhood collectors, and local streets. So each of those designations has a different design standard and a different expectation on how it's going to be, how it's going to function in terms of how it's going to be designed in terms of its width and the types of facilities that are on it, and how it's going to function and those expectations over time. So this functional classification is an updated classification that shows not only the existing roads, but the projected or the future roads. So the dashed lines on this map represent different projects that we expect the city to try and develop over a 20-year period, and the classification associated with those. This next graphic here is just sort of a visual representation of those different roadway standards. So the arterial image up on top shows the expectation that it will be 3-lane facility. Some of it might be median controlled or have a center turn lane. There will be bike lanes, and there will be a buffer zone or a landscaping strip between the sidewalk and the bike lane. So this is, you'll notice on this graphic that there are no design dimensions on it. Those are reserved and going to be kept in the city's development code and the public works standards. But the TSP at least identifies the foundational components of each of these different roadway standards. So kind of an updated visual for future reference and use by city staff. This next map shows the truck freight and network classifications. So we're kind of breaking down the expectations for how a city will make decisions when it comes to freight accommodation. So the red lines represent expectations on regional freight travel. The yellow lines represent expectations for local freight travel. And as you can see, the Port of Morrow ends up with a good chunk of those regional and local freight route designations. We also added to the map what we call the high, wide, and heavy freight routes, and with the expectation and the use of certain roadways for oversized freight delivery that the Port of Morrow relies upon to get some of its larger uses from the barges to the highway network. So this is a new map that designates and shows how the freight system will be planned and accounted for over time. This next map just shows sort of a visual on the various intersection and roadway projects that were developed as part of the TSP. I'm not going to go into every one of these graphics, but the red lines represent planned roadway corridors. So a dashed line in red would show an extension. A good example of that is Oregon Trail Boulevard, showing it being extended from its current westerly terminus out to the Paul Smith Road corridor. And all the other roadways and expectations of future uses over time. The green lines represent planned roadway reconstruction or modernization projects. And then the various circles and dots represent intersections that we expect to have some kind of improvement, whether it's traffic control or other pedestrian accommodations over time. I will point out, because it's been a point of a handful of conversations over time, is what is this green box that's centered over the I-84 Main Street interchange? One of the things we realized over the course of this TSP is there were a number of say long-term capacity issues that were being recognized at the I-84 Main Street interchange. And those capacity constraints were going to necessitate some kind of mitigation treatments over time. And it wasn't going to be an easy mitigation or resolution on what the solution could be. So the green box is Project R25, and Carla mentioned it a few minutes ago. Essentially is a project that will be included in the TSP for the city to come back at some point in the near future and reopen the interchange area management plan from 2009 and update that IAMP. So it's a plan within a plan, if you will. So that IAMP update is identified as a near-term priority funding project for the city. And at some point in the near future, they will undertake a revision of that interchange plan, and the product of that planning effort will decide what to do with the I-84 Main Street interchange. And what to do could involve a reconfigured interchange, a modernized and updated interchange, and or somewhere in between, so or anywhere, any type of projects in between. So that's kind of a plan within a plan, if you will. But that was a kind of a late add to this planning process in recognition that we just felt like within the budget and the time that we had for this TSP, we couldn't really get to the heart of the solution, and it needed to be addressed at a much more conservative and focused effort going forward. I'm going to pause there because I'm doing a lot of talking to make sure I'm not generating any questions before I proceed with the next several slides.
Do any counselors have any questions? You may continue.
Thank you. Just a few more and we'll be done. I generated this image here on this slide just to kind of show what that I-84 Main Street interchange and what some of the projects and issues were as we developed them. So first and foremost, the I-84 Main Street interchange has some deficiency problems. It's an older interchange constructed at a time when traffic volumes were nowhere near what they are today. There's a lot of freeway-oriented retail use that gets on and off at that interchange, and it's really the main door to Boardman for a lot of people. So the interchange ramps and the terminals in which they intersect Main Street, they've got sight distance deficiencies. There's traffic control issues, and there will be more over time. The bridge over I-84 is height deficient. So some overweight and, I'm sorry, oversized vehicles and overheight vehicles can't travel underneath it. So there's all sorts of modernization and improvement elements that need to go into that interchange. But then more importantly, there's a number of access management and local streets that intersect the Main Street corridor within close proximity of this interchange. And that's well known and well documented in various planning projects. So this TSP does not call for any specific changes to the current IAMP other than just to recognize that at some point in the future, when the city undertakes the IAMP update, that all of these issues, including the Front Street intersections and the Boardman Main Street intersection, will all be revisited and a package of solutions will be identified to modernize and bring that interchange up to modern standards that can support the future growth of Boardman. Just kind of moving on, this next figure shows what we call the local street connectivity plan. This is kind of a specialized figure we developed for the city in recognition that there's a lot of parcels in the city that will infill and develop over time, whether it's through commercial development, industrial development, or residential development. We wanted to give the city and city staff some tools for working with the development community to ensure that local streets are properly extended and connected within the network. So each of these yellow arrows represents an expectation that when that vacant parcel or the adjacent parcel develops, that there will be a local street connection to and from and into that parcel. So it's just a little bit of a tool that we felt was necessary to help city staff work with the developers and ensure that the local street connections are made over time when those parcels redevelop. Not all TSPs are just about roadways, so we also look at multimodal components. So this pedestrian projects map shows all the different pedestrian improvement projects that we came up with over the course of the project. They range from pedestrian crossing enhancements at certain intersections to new sidewalks or modernized sidewalks or upgraded sidewalks to planned multi-use pathways. So a lot of the projects that you see on here are a reflection of feedback we received from members of the community and just looking to help establish new connectivity and new multimodal connections for those folks in town who don't drive or need to rely upon non-motorized forms of transportation. Paired with that pedestrian projects map is a bicycle projects map. So in this case, we have projects that range from new bike lanes on certain roadways, new multi-use pathways, and shared roadway signing and striping to help drivers recognize when they can expect to see bicyclists on certain corridors. So these are the bicycle projects. And I think for the sake of time, that kind of is the meat of a lot of the projects that are included in this new TSP update. I will note just a couple of things. Our contract with ODOT runs out here in mid to late December. So whatever actions are taken this evening, hopefully an approval or adoption, if that's the case, then we can meet the contractual deadline of December 18th. And I'm hopeful that we can get there this evening. So whatever happens here this evening, we'll finalize the TSP and get all the final deliverables put together, and we'll be done. So I think that's the crux of what I wanted to say this evening. I'll pause and take questions from anybody.
Anyone have questions at this time?
Include a bike path over the freeway.
Yes, we did. We did add that.
I wanted to make sure. I was looking at it and I thought I was reading it correctly.
Yep. It's on the west side of town. There's a place along the freeway where the banks are fairly high and the freeway is a little bit lower. Great work by Matt. He identified that location and that's what it's the Portland line, yeah, out over that way. Yep. So, it's a long shot, but it's in there. And if you don't put it in the plan, you don't get anywhere anyway. So it's a first step. You're welcome.
Yeah, I will say one more thing
Oh, go ahead.
regarding each of the projects. Sorry, I apologize. One of all the projects that we have identified here, they all have a number on the map and that corresponds to the table. And some of the projects within those tables are identified as financially constrained projects. So if it's identified as a financially constrained project, that means that based on our funding forecasts, we believe the city has enough money within their current capital budgets to construct these projects. Now, it doesn't mean the city's going to go out and construct them in the order in which they're identified, but we believe that there will be enough money, capital money over time to pick off, a dozen or more of these projects. If they're not listed as financially constrained, then they're kind of what we call aspirational. So it means that while there isn't an identified funding source for them now, the city can continue to work with ODOT and various grants to help fund these projects. So this freeway project or this bike project over the freeway admittedly falls into that aspirational category, given that it has a pretty hefty price tag. But I think it's important for the city to strive for providing additional connectivity over the freeway, considering its barrier effect between the north and south sides of the community.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time, I will call on those who wish to testify in favor of the proposed adoption. I will now call on those who wish to testify in opposition of the proposed adoption. Mr. Tallman.
My name is Jonathan Tallman. I've been over here several times. Thank you. I just would like to say I would love the opportunity to spend like the last 40 minutes talking just like you guys have talked to them with maps and go through the whole process of the issues, because I don't feel like that gets properly portrayed. I am going to bring this on topic because it is on topic. Christina, you had a question earlier at the last meeting that goes directly to the heart of this. And that is what I want to show and I want to do so we don't have the issues that I'm bringing up, okay? The conflicts, everything that's out there. That is why we're having the problems that you talked about specifically at the last meeting. And I'm bringing these up so that we don't have the problems of the constraints of what we have. Mr. Mayor, you brought up last time, hey, you ought to go to these meetings. I'm not even allowed to talk at these meetings. That's very frustrating. And I can show you with documentation the whole time. And I don't mean that to be confrontational to you. I mean that to be constructive back to you of I'm not able to properly communicate the issues that I have because it comes combative when I'm trying to solve these problems that you guys are talking about that makes Boardman great. I want to make Boardman great. There's no doubt in my mind that this can be done responsibly and properly, and all working partners get to work together. And that's all that I've ever asked from the beginning is if you're going to invest it, make sure it's all up to code. And that hasn't been done. I'm going to put in for the record, okay, open the record 777. Now that I've seen why the contract runs out on 12/18, it makes perfect sense. I wish, Brandon, you could have just said that to me. Well, the contract ends on 12/18. It makes sense why we're pushing this through. Okay, negotiate in good faith. All right, that's all that I ask. Good faith that we work together to make Boardman a city on the hill. I prayed for this profusely. And I know if we sit down and work together, we can get that done. I can look at each one of you in the eyes and say that. And I want to work together to make Boardman a city on the hill. Will you reach out and extend that? My mom is going to speak at the public comment. I believe she can properly convey that to make Boardman a city on the hill. Please, thank you. I appreciate you guys letting me speak. I'm not trying to be confrontational, but I really would love 30 minutes to go over every overview that guy just talked, because it is not telling the truth of the real problems. And I want to bring this up. Portland State came out to my coffee shop and I talked to the issues about the population control of those issues and how they, you know what they did? They ran because they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want to talk about how the numbers are lied and manipulated. They didn't want to talk about it. And I said, why? Where's your integrity? Where's your character? And I wasn't trying to become, I lost them as customers. Doesn't matter to me because I know what I'm telling them is the truth, not doing what is best for the contract. And they didn't want to do anything about it. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Here's for the record. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to testify in opposition of the proposed adoption? Does anyone wish to provide neutral testimony? Does the applicant wish to provide rebuttal to any of the testimony?
So the city's the applicant. Oh, sorry. The city's the applicant. I think most of our rebuttal to Mr. Tallman's emails are included in your packet. It's part of the staff response to public comment document. Again, there hasn't been anything substantive to the criteria that has been submitted. So I don't know that we have much rebuttal.
Do you have anything to add to the response?
No, not at this point, not based on what was said. So I'm not sure what he just handed to Amanda. So well. The only other action before you can go to the next step or when you do close the public hearing part, I do have an action I need you to take relative to the record tonight. So.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's before the close or?
Yes, before, well, when you gavel the hearing close, as you
Then
start
you want
deliberating,
to you want
then
this
I've
time
got an
after.
action
Okay,
thing I
copy
need to
that, yeah.
take, yes.
Does a member of the city council have any further questions for staff or the audience? Now, to make it clear, this is just the TSP and not the IAMP.
Right, right. So that box that Matt showed you on that map, and maybe he can go back and pull that map back up. That map calls out basically the Main Street interchange area from Boardman Avenue, the Front Street North, Front Street South, and Oregon Trail. And we've carved that out. That's already kind of what the IMP currently addresses. And so we've identified that even though this project is about $250,000, there wasn't enough to then also really focus on that interchange. And so that's what we've pulled out and we're going to do as a refinement to the IAMP. Yep. So you are adopting as part of the TSP project R25.
Right.
And R25 is that refinement work.
So just for clarification, everything that's on this TSP, just because it's on the TSP doesn't mean it's getting done.
Right,
Correct.
right.
It's just what could happen in 20 years.
Right. It's defined as a 20-year plan, although Matt's absolutely right. Most communities, and particularly communities who are facing the kind of growth that we've been experiencing, you will be back updating this TSP probably in the next 5 to 7 years. And what those projects are, again, he talked about those that are financially constrained. We know what projects we're probably going to do over the next 2 to 5 years. The further out you get, the more it's like, well, it might be this or it might be that. And a developer shows up and then all of a sudden you're doing one of those yellow arrows instead of one of the green streets. I mean, that's just kind of what happens. But it is what we think we're going to do. It's what we want to do. And it's what we hope we get the ability to do. But with a 20-year planning horizon.
Right, 100%. But like you said, if it's not on there, probably not getting done. So
Right.
throw it on there.
Right.
As a lookout. So.
Yep.
No, that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify that this just because it's on there doesn't mean it's getting done.
Right.
I do have just a short question.
Are you done, Ethan?
Sorry.
Okay.
How many people were on the TSP advisory committee?
About 20, if
About
not
20,
more. Yeah.
About 20 community members?
No. There was a mixture of ODOT staff. We had our DLCD regional rep that was a member. And then we had one city councilor, Heather, and then on the planning commission, David Jones. I know there were probably eight ODOT folks that were appointed. And then community members, business owners, other members of the community. Mhm.
Yeah, there were 16 people.
16, okay.
On the pack.
Okay. And then the information that we are looking at right now, it's been available pretty much the entire process.
Right, so we've had a website, Amanda has been phenomenal at working and supporting all of these strategic planning projects. When you go to the city's website and you go under the strategic plan, you can get to a page for the TSP, actually for all of these things. The TSP has all the PAC meetings on there. I think I messed up once and forgot to hit the record button, but we've recorded most of the PAC meetings. Again, I think all but one, the recordings are all posted. All of the materials that were provided have been posted. They're still there. They're not coming down anytime soon. The draft TSP now is not there. It is a part of your meeting packet. So you find it in a different, same thing with the planning commission packet. That's on the meetings page, but you can find all of this information on the
So
city's
if I was
website.
just a regular person,
Mhm.
all of this information has been available.
Yep. And most of the components that make up the appendices are the tech memos that were done and were presented at the various PAC meetings. Yep, you're welcome. And again, big shout out to Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda.
Any other questions by the council? Okay, if there's no further questions, I will close the public testimony portion of this hearing. The public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed.
Thank you. So one of the things I want to make sure we do is adequately incorporate all of the parts and pieces into the record. And so there are a couple things got posted again, refined today. So we boo-booed at Planning Commission and didn't put the Hattenhauer first letter into the record. So I'm just going to ask that you by motion add the Jonathan and Cheryl Tallman emails, the response to public comment completed by staff, and the material related to the Hattenhauer requests to the record. You could just
That
say,
was really, really fast. So
you want me to go again a little slower?
Yeah, so we need the.
So add the Jonathan and Cheryl Tallman emails, the response to public comment that was completed by staff, and the material related to the Hattenhauer requests to the record.
So you need that right now to be added into the record.
Yep, but just
So we
by
need
motion
We
and
need a motion to get that at least added into the record.
yep. It just is a formal acknowledgement that those are part of the record.
All right, does someone want to make a motion to have that added into the record?
I move to have all of the things that Carla listed on her list added to the record.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Amanda, I have it written down.
Perfect.
I was just double checking because yeah. Okay, is there any discussion about that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we have that
Thank you.
added to your record, to the
Thank you.
record. Now, as far as after the public hearing, is there any discussion by the city council that they would like to have?
I guess the only thing I would say is, I think if this has been on the public record where people could go to our website and look at it, that their questions should have been answered by now. And, you know, if I don't think you can blame us that you didn't know. Maybe you don't know, but that could fall on you, not on us. So.
For me, studying the TSP really helped me understand the plans that we needed to put in place to be able to help our roads within the map that was created up there to help us on the colors and the plans. And I think that was something that we needed to do. I thought it was important that we needed to have that area that was in that green section identified, because we talked about it last year and came and decided we were going to get more information. It's an area that needs to be identified and putting it into that plan tells us that we need to address those issues. And that's going to be a really hard conversation on how we do that. And so the map and the descriptions of things that are going to be happening, that just helps us understand how we're going to help create our traffic issues inside the city limits of Boardman. And that's what helped me understand why we did that. And I'll leave that at that. Are there any other comments? All right. So we're at the part where we're at the action items. So if the city council wishes to continue the matter for any reason, the hearing should be continued to a date, time, place certain to avoid the need to push public new notice. Or the council will take action on the corresponding ordinance 10-2025, which is the next item on our agenda. So those are the two options that we have at this time.
Move to approve the reading by title only of ordinance 10-2025, adopting the city of Boardman transportation system plan.
I'll second that.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? We'll do a roll call, please.
Councilor Baumgartner?
Yes.
Councilor Cuevas?
Yes.
Councilor Pettigrew?
Yes.
Councilor Prophet?
Yes.
Councilor Rockwell?
Yes.
Councilor Salata?
Yes.
Mayor Kiefer?
Yes. So staff member now reads the title.
Ordinance 10-2025, adopting the city of Boardman transportation system plan.
Move to adopt ordinance 10-2025, adopting the city of Boardman transportation system plan and declare the emergency.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion that we need to have or like to have?
I'm just glad to see it getting done. It's been a very long process. A lot of work went into it, so.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a lot of work. It's very thorough. Not an easy task.
Anybody else wish to have a comment during discussion?
Just one question. Is there a reason the word emergency was used?
Yes, a couple of things. One, the contract, wanting to get our portion of this adopted. Initially, the county was going to follow immediately with their public hearings. They have opted for certain reasons to delay that into January. But we're also working to develop the scope to kick off the IAMP. And so the sooner this is accomplished, the sooner we can move to that next step.
Just out of curiosity, what are their reasons?
Public testimony from a particular individual.
Any other question? The discussion during this time. Roll call, please.
Councilor Baumgartner?
Yes.
Councilor Cuevas?
Yes.
Councilor Pettigrew?
Yes.
Councilor Prophet?
Yes.
Councilor Rockwell?
Yes.
Councilor Salata?
Yep.
Mayor Kiefer?
Yes. All right, we'll move on to our next, which is the other public comment. The public period is an essential part of our local government here in Boardman. For our meetings and our council strongly takes community input into consideration. However, in observance of Oregon open meeting laws, this isn't the time for dialogue, but rather a time for us to listen to you. Our city manager will direct staff to follow up with you regarding your comments or questions. Anyone may speak on any topic other than a matter of litigation, a quasi-judicial land use matter, or a matter scheduled for public hearing at some future date. Each person has 3 minutes to speak, maybe a little longer if we need to. When your name is called, proceed to the podium and speak clearly into the microphone. Begin by stating your name and address, and then express your view or offer your suggestions in a courteous and consideration manner. Please remember to direct all remarks and questions to the council through the mayor. It is not appropriate for you to address the audience or the staff directly. Mrs. Tallman.
I'm gonna say,
I would,
because of
Wait.
this.
Mrs. Tallman, you have the opportunity to be first. Would you like to be first? Okay, Mr. Tallman.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, Matt and those who are there. Jody,
Amanda,
maybe stick on.
Amanda, will you make sure the timer just doesn't go bonkers? But when it goes off, just, okay. Mr. Tallman.
Okay, well, first of all, this is why I did what I did.
Oh,
Thank you for
understandable.
Okay, well, first of all, very good question, Ethan. I really appreciate you asking that question. So the reason why emergency was used is because a specifically issue is being treated as an emergency because of the procedural defects that I brought up in my testimony. She didn't mention it by name, but you guys are going to go into executive session because of this emergency. This is the proper things that is giving you guys city exposure, that is making you legally liable, and it needs to be stopped and it needs to be shown. And you will be shown it. Just ask the questions because it puts you all at risk. And my main point is, let's work together. Let's make Boardman beautiful. I have asked all these questions, Karen, I really have. And I have that October 7th email that I sent you, Mr. Kiefer, that I asked Brandon, make sure I can go. Then Brandon says yes. Then Carla says, no, I can't go, but you can speak this time, but you can in the future. Public comments are not shown. That is not Goal 1 compliance. It flat out is not Goal 1 compliance. And that is sad. So when you say, hey, Jonathan can do this, no, I have the whole entire time. And I've been just silenced. And this is what hurts Boardman. This is what makes Boardman suffer with these issues, procedural issues. And I'm just bringing this up so we don't have this problem. Let's work together. My mom's going to speak. Okay, let's act in good faith back. I'm not trying to be accusatory. I'm trying to show you I want to work together and not give us exposure that we need, because I actually kind of fear for my safety on this because of the exposure that this has created. But I promise you, we will make Boardman a great town to live in. It will be the city on the hill if you guys step up and say this needs to stop from now on. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, Mr. Tallman. Mrs. Tallman, it is your time. There, yeah, you if you have it to the side, and then it should hear you.
Okay,
And then it doesn't feel like you're like, it's sticking right in your face.
I
There
know,
you go.
I didn't like that, okay. Good evening, Mayor and councilors and city staff. My name is Cheryl Tallman, and I'm the owner of the Farmer's Cup on Laurel Lane. My family came to Boardman in 1978 when my husband Terry chose to put down roots in this vicinity. And he dedicated his life to helping the community succeed. He served as mayor, as a county judge, and a county commissioner. And he worked tirelessly to make the area a place that families could grow and thrive. This is where we raised our children. All of them graduated from Boardman schools. This is the only home they've ever known. In 2016, Terry and I retired. We looked forward to finally enjoying the fruits of our labor, our faith, and the life that we had built together. But instead of peace and rest, we found ourselves in the middle of a long and stressful situation with the city, and the county, and the port. One that has dragged on for years without clarity, without communication, and without anything ever being put in writing. The stress of this process weighed heavily on Terry and myself. It took years from our retirement, and it took years from his life. He died 3 years ago. And now he is not here to speak for himself. So tonight I am the speaker. He's the business person and I'm not, but I'm speaking for our family. I am ready to be done with the city's pattern of the verbal comments, the different statements, and refusing to put anything in writing.
After 7 years, this is not a good faith conduct. My son Jonathan owns the land through 1 John 2:17 LLC, and he will take this further if the city continues down this path. But tonight I am asking you to take the step that should have happened years ago, making a written good faith payment, not a conversation, not a verbal offer, but a written good faith payment. The payment must be made out to 1 John 2:17. No signature required. I'm giving you on paper the amount we expect you to take into your executive session. This is the appropriate and required step before the city moves forward on any plan, any trail, or any transportation project that directly impacts our property. For nearly 50 years, actually 47, the Tallman family has contributed to this community with services, with business, with honesty, and with faith. Tonight, I am asking you to match that good faith. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Tallman. Is there anyone else who wishes to have public comment? Having hearing none, we'll move down to executive session 162.6602E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. Boardman City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602E, which allows the council to meet in executive session to consider real estate. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session in person. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. The public Zoom meeting link will be closed during the executive session. As permissible, executive session meetings are not subject to House Bill 2560. No decisions may be made in executive session. Executive session is expected to last less than 30 minutes. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to pause the meeting. And once we come out of executive session, I will open it and then announce whether we have a decision or not a decision. This meeting is paused. All right, we'll resume our city council meeting. And after executive session, no decision has been made. This meeting is adjourned.